Oh, hello. Greetings, Reclaimers. I am 343 Guilty Spark, monitor of Podcast Evolved. Protocol dictates that you must listen. Come, we have a wealth of knowledge to share with you, and you don't want to make my blue eye red. Do you, Reclaimers?
To another Halo Book Club episode. This is a part of Halo Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. I am your host, Krista, your gracious host, here to walk you through all things books and Halo. With me here today is Aaron.
Hi, guys.
And David.
Hello, everybody.
And this month's book club is Halo Shadows of Reach. We actually got it pretty early, so we're actually recording this before the book's even out. Hooray! We're actually on top of things this time.
Oh, we were not on top of things. This came in so hot, it made, the owl at the start of this look like it came in and had a smooth landing.
I think we all finished the book today, right? I finished it today.
I finished the book 45 minutes ago.
Wow!
I'm about the same time, actually.
You remember when we used to record the book club like a month after the book came out?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, we used to do that. I know you don't remember it, but that's what we used to do. Anyway, before we get started, check out our awesome website, halopodcastevolved.com or just halopodcast.com. It features all of our shows, which include Podcast Evolved, our main show, and weekly episodes that alternate between lore discussions and the latest on Halo and Xbox news. We also have Mission Debrief, a deep dive into every Halo game's campaign, mission by mission. Right now we are at the very end of Halo Wars 2. We're going over the DLC. And of course, we have our newest show, Builds with Blocks, which is centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. If you like us, take a gander at our Patreon page, patreon.com/HaloPodcastEvolved. We offer a variety of exclusive rewards to our patrons, like early episodes and swag. We would like to take this moment to thank our patrons for their continued support. Thank you!
Yes, thank you.
Guys.
And finally, we encourage our listeners who want to listen to and support us and support our Audible to go ahead and check out Audible's growing collection of Halo novels that are all in one place, along with a bunch of other novels and stuff for you to look at. So go to the URL, audibletrial.com/Halo or /just Podcast Evolved, audibletrial.com/Podcast Evolved, to learn more and start your free trial today. It does help us very much, so if you're looking for a place to listen and not read Halo books, check it out. And now I'm going to throw it to David to kind of give us a little teaser of what we're about to go through, what we're about to discuss. David?
You want me to do all the stats?
Do all of the big stats, yeah.
All of the stats. So, title, Halo, Shadows of Reach. Everybody should know this. The author is Troy Denning. Hi, Troy. I know he listens. I hope he listens. He listened to our last ones anyway. Hopefully we don't get anything wrong in this one, Troy.
He's going to come with a list.
The publisher is Simon & Schuster, or is that Gallery Books? Is that the same? I don't know how that works.
They're the same thing, yeah.
They're the same thing? Okay. Formats is all. Is it all? It's not audio yet, is it?
There is an audiobook coming.
Oh, there's an audiobook coming. Probably you should notice here is that this book has a unique
feature.
Yeah, I guess Walmart apparently have this book that has an extra section in it I think it's either like a prologue or epilogue. I can't remember how they word it. And that's unique to that. It isn't written by Troy, but obviously it's written by the 343 team. So we don't know what it's about because none of us could get a copy of that book, and because also it's not out yet at the time of recording. But Troy had said it's not really anything that takes away from, you're not missing anything by reading from this. So we'll obviously talk about it at another time, probably on a regular show at some stage. That is what I will say about the formats. So just be aware, if you're listening to this after reading, your book might be different than ours. So if we don't talk about that particular section, that's why. The release date is officially October 20th, 2020. The length is 415 pages. And the timeline is based pretty much around October of 2559. So this is the furthest forward in the Halo timeline of any media that we have to date, which is really exciting. And because we're getting real close to Halo Infinite, guys. Where the book pretty much entirely takes place in and around Reach. So there's no planet hopping, character hopping stuff in this book. We're all in and around Reach. And what I will do now is give you the quick summary from the back of the book, and then we'll get going in our discussion. So the date is October 2559. It has been a year since the renegade artificial intelligence Cortana issued a galaxy-wide ultimatum, subjecting many worlds to martial law under the indomitable grip of her Forerunner weapons, aka Guardians. Outside her view, the members of Blue Team John 117, the Master Chief, Fred 104, Kelly 087, and Linda 058 are assigned from the UNSC Infinity to make a covert insertion into the ravaged planet of Reach, their former home and training ground, and the site of humanity's most cataclysmic military defeat near the end of the Covenant War. Reach still hides a myriad secrets after all these years. Blue Team's mission is to penetrate the rubble-filled depths of Castle Base and recover the top-secret assets locked away in Dr. Catherine Halsey's abandoned laboratory. Assets that may prove to be humanity's last hope against Cortana. But Reach has been invaded by a powerful and ruthless alien faction who have their own reasons for being there. Establishing themselves as a vicious occupying force on the devastated planet, this enemy will soon transform Blue Team's simple retrieval operation into a full-blown crisis. And with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, mission failure is not an option.
Alright, do we want to just kick off with just a quick 2-minute summary of the entire book, and then we'll get into some of the nice details that we want to go over?
Are you prepared to summarize an entire book in 2 minutes, Krista?
So prepared, it's going to be really fun.
Go for it.
So Halo Shadows of Reach obviously starts out with Blue Team inserting onto Reach in a owl, which is actually like a stealth pelican. Of course, Blue Team has come not only with, all 4 members, they've also come with kind of the special crew, which consists of a couple individuals. And we'll get into them a bit later. And of course, we also have some excavation equipment because obviously the entire sword base is kind of buried under rubble and stuff like that from the ending of Halo First Strike. So the team inserts automatically draws a bunch of banished and or whatever Covenant force is out there attention. At this point, we don't know exactly, what's attacking them. They're forced to crash land and then quickly, start making their way across the glass. During their journey across the glass, they pretty much figure out that they're not the only humans here, and there's also a lot of banished here, and the banished, they're kind of acting a little weird. They're not acting like the normal banished, they're acting a little more smarter. It's pretty much what it is. At first, Chief thinks it's the Keepers. Of course, it does end up being the Keepers, but Chief doesn't know this at this point, so they're all a bit confused, and they just kind of start going through the glass and figuring out what they need to do next. Pretty soon afterwards, they find some of the human settlements that are kind of littered around the landscape. The humans and the Banished have been pretty much fighting for the past couple weeks, since the Banished arrived and started taking over their shit. And that doesn't make the humans very happy. We go into a human settlement pretty much just to get a vehicle to distract the Banished and draw them away from Blue Team at one point. And that's when we kind of find the entire Reach militia. And they're like, you're coming with us because you're definitely here to save us, right? Chief's like, no. And they're like, you're here to save us. Of course, Chief's a big softie for Reach, and he ends up going with the militia. They make a plan, they do some stuff, and a huge battle on Reach ensues with the militia trying to take a banished armory, destroy some of the vehicles. and of course get some help from the UNSC. And it all kind of comes in a huge fight scene that's super epic and super fun. After Reach is kind of liberated, Blue Team, of course, go right back to the mission they're supposed to be doing and fly over to the shaft, which is all that is left of Sword Base, is just this huge shaft in the middle of nowhere, not even under a mountain or anything like that. And of course, they go to the shaft. All the Banished are there because the Banished are actually not there for Sword Base. They're actually there for the Forerunner installation that is under Sword Base that has a portal. The magical portal is going to help them reach Atriox because they have some of the Slip Space gem from Halo First Strike. There's a lot of First Strike stuff in this. The Banished and Blue Team are kind of after the same thing. The Banished kind of figure that out and follow Blue Team to where they're going to be going. And that's how they find Sword Base. So there's a big battle over Sword Base. Eventually Blue Team succeed.
I'll jump in and say Castle Base, not Sword Base, because someone will be listening and correct us.
Is it Castle Base? Damn. Okay, I said Sword Base through the whole fuck.
Yeah, it's all Castle Base.
Sword Base is the one from Reach. I get it confused too.
Sorry, it's all Castle Base. I'm so sorry. So, of course, Blue Team are looking for Dr. Halsey's assets. The Banished are looking for the portal, and both are under Castle Base, and they're pretty much after the same thing. Blue Team are able to clear the shaft, though some Banished get into the Forerunner structure. And Blue Team get the assets. Unfortunately, the Banished also get their assets, and everybody evacuates Reach because a huge slip space portal is opened, and our big boy Atriox comes through, which is obviously going to make Cortana a little suspicious. That is the super long and short summary. There's a lot more than this in the book, but that is the 2-minute summary. Was it 2 minutes, guys? Did I do good?
It was close.
159. Nailed it, Krista.
Damn. Hell yeah. So do we want to get into some specifics? Does anyone want to go over special team? Or do they call it special? It's special something, right?
Special crew. They were special crew. I think, I want to say at the start, I thought, okay, the team is dropping in an owl. And that's a Troy thing. He introduced that in one of his previous books. I think the first one, which is the stealth pelican, which is cool. I love the maneuver that they do, that they figure out. They're gonna they're pretending to be a meteorite blowing up. He does this insane maneuver where he flips the ship backwards and shoots rockets out that explode like particles, and then it rapidly descends, cools, so it can engage in its stealth suite, and it slows down so that the ships that follow it think it was meteorite that blew up, and then they have to investigate the area to kind of make sure. I love all that stuff. That was such a cool idea, the way to stealth insert something that clearly generating too much heat as a planet entry to get out. And they talk about that a lot, sensors and visibility and night vision and heat and infrared. You know what I mean? It's a big thing about what sensors this thing has and what it can see, and then they're making assumptions based on that. And I found that kind of very technically interesting about the things that obviously humanity has for some reason an upper hand at nighttime operations, because we have a better suite of sensors for night vision stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, the owl insertion at the start and introducing the special crew, I thought was pretty cool. And even though it is a pelican and it does immediately crash, it was a cool crash.
Well, what do you expect? All the pelicans in this crash.
I thought Troy might keep at least one pelican alive. They even left some pelicans behind at the end.
There was actually a lot of air combat in this book, which I found extremely refreshing and nice. There's a bunch of broadswords and longswords that kind of come in during the really big battles and set pieces of this novel.
The longsword is a reveal. The special package is being prepped for this fucking Covenant Corvette. You're ooh, what's the special package? And there's a bunch of longswords, and then everybody, all the Banished shit themselves when the fucking longswords show up. I thought that was awesome. I love that it showed humanity's air superiority, how better we were in terms of the tactics than to the Banished with our vehicles and stuff. And it seemed that humanity's downside was ammunition and fuel, as opposed to our tactics were superior to the Banished. I thought that was so interesting of how we can only stay here for so long because we run out of ammunition and fuel. We have to fuck off, even though we just kicked ass. I mean, I thought that was cool. All the air stuff was definitely very refreshing.
So good. I get a little bored of the ground combat, because every Halo book does ground combat, of course, because you're usually following a Spartan or something similar. And so there's always a lot of ground combat in the books. But the air combat was very refreshing. It was very nice to have kind of these layers. Troy Denning did a very good job at layering these battles. What are the normal Marines doing, or just boots on the ground? What is the cavalry doing? What is the air doing? And it just kind of builds from there. So you kind of get a very good sense of everything that's going on in the battle, which I found very, very fun. Also, Troy Denning is working with these huge set pieces. Like at one of the battles, literally 100 Spartans drop from the Infinity.
I thought that big battle was awesome, especially because it was told as Chief commanding it. And I thought that was really interesting to see Chief change from a 4-man commanding, let's say, a 4-man team to Chief commanding a whole battle of hundreds of people. If not, no, thousands even. Wasn't there? There's thousands in the militia. I thought that was super cool, and how like he interacted with the militia was very interesting. I thought it was awesome, and even like there's like great moments with him and like Chapov.
Yeah, Chapov. He's one of the special crew.
Yeah, he's a wonderful internal moment of like realizing who he is, his status within the military, and to be seen by civilians and people outside it, and realizing that it's maybe not, it's part of his job now to kind of maybe train and like reinforce new people coming up, and that like he kind of took this fellow under his wing a little bit, and I really liked that. And then obviously that came to a sad end because Troy loves to make characters we care about and kill them because he's a jerk. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
When you were talking about that a little bit with Chapov when he takes him under his wing, I thought it was really cute that Blue Team are having banter and they've included Chapov with it, but he doesn't, because they're so dry and droll, he thinks they're being mean to him, and he doesn't realise that, no, we're actually being nice to you and this is how we get on, and he has to give him like a little symbolic pat in the back and go like, here, you sit in the front seat, I'll sit back here.
You sit next to the cute girl.
Yeah, and then you also realise that he actually put Chapov in the front because there's no way he could hold on to the back of the fucking Warthog while she drives.
Yeah.
I love that little line when he looks over to Fred and Fred's holding on to the side and he's like, no, you want to put your arm around the roll bar. And then the Warthog takes off and he looks over and he's like, see, did you put your arm around it?
I actually really liked that character. Her name was Bella, and she was a buggy champion, and she did a lot of the driving, and she's just like, Chief, you've never driven with someone like me. And Chief's like, oh shit.
I thought she was fantastic. She was the one death that I was actually super bummed with, because I thought she was fantastic. And like the Warthog scenes of her driving was awesome. And like it sounds like, because every Halo player knows what a Warthog drives like. So having it described as her doing crazy shit, and like the scene of her driving into the Phantom, I thought was incredible. I loved that planet, and it's just her like destroying Sangheili and Brutes by like just like revving the engine and spinning the tires on them and ripping their arms. Like that was so fucking cool.
The idea that you can, which she does the maneuver to get into the ramp where she brakes the Warthog hard and it pushes down on the front springs, and then she accelerates and it like leaps up into the air. And I'm like, if you could do stuff like that and reach, finally steps would no longer be a challenge.
Hell
or you could do it in Infinite. Like, you know, there's always that bit in the game where you go like, oh, I can't get the Warthog up this ledge, and now you can just like bunny hop it.
But that's how everyone gets around things. Like you just put something slightly smaller in front of the Warthog and just kind of bump it up a little bit.
What if you didn't need to? What if you could make the Warthog jump by itself?
You have to be a 5-time
winner, yeah. She says it so many times.
They do make a point of her being an incredible driver, but I thought it was pretty cool. They were great scenes. Super. I knew she was dying, especially when they made the comment of like, Chief says, you know, remember to keep the passenger side facing the enemy or whatever so you don't get shot. I was like, oh, this girl's getting shot.
Do we want to just talk about Blue Team and Chief? Because I feel like Chief's inner monologue in this book is very different than any other inner monologue we've kind of seen him with.
He's grown up. Yeah, he definitely... I thought like Chief's monologue is wonderful in terms of like, you get an older person. He seems to have come along very far since the last time we've seen him in a book. I mean, not even in a Troy book, but let's say, when was the last content we had with Chief was in it? Let's say pre-Halo 5.
Like First Strike?
No. Was it?
Yeah, that's the only other Chief book, yeah.
Then it was Silent Storm, and They were all young,
They're all
Chief.
prequel books. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. That's really weird to think about.
That's actually a good point, though. That might be why Chief's monologues seemed so vastly different than what we've read him in, because we haven't heard his inner monologue since 2552.
But even there's got to be comics that are set after Halo 4.
The problem is, like, the comics don't have much of an inner monologue with them.
Yeah, well, that's true.
The thing I like about it is he's contemplating the choices he made in Halo 5 and how he's going to have to, like, be responsible for them someday. He's like, when all this is over, someone's going to hold me account for going AWOL and that.
He's kind of accepted it, too.
Yeah, and like with Halsey as well, he's not really holding a grudge against Halsey, but there's a bit of trust gone there. You can feel like he doesn't entirely trust her the way he used to.
Yeah, I thought it was the interesting conversation of, did Halsey set them up on this planet? Have they just been set up? Has she sold them out for some reason? I thought that was really interesting. Didn't believe it for a second, but I did think it was cool that like the characters in world, especially the blue team, are considering, did Halsey fuck up? Do you know? I thought that was cool.
It's a viable option because she's done it before.
Well, and you also have to remember that Halsey's been kind of off the rails for a while now, considering her joining Jewel and her issues with Oni and being captured in Glasslands.
Can I ask a Halsey question while we're here?
Sure.
The little hint at the end where Halsey kind of staggers and grabs onto Chief, do we think we're hinting at the death of Halsey?
No, that wasn't physical. I think that was emotional.
Yeah, that was an emotional reaction because throughout the book, Chief thinks of Blue Team as like a percentage, so when one of them gets injured, the percentage goes down of their effectiveness. At the end of the book, they're at like 58% at effectiveness, and they're fucked up.
Yeah, they make a big deal of how messed up Blue Team is, that the ODSTs don't want to even look at them because these are these immortal warriors that are now visibly fucked up. I like the idea of, well, obviously her armor is totally cracked at the end of Halo 4, and that like she is an emotional wreck, and that she is very emotionally, invested in Blue Team now, like especially Blue Team. So I think seeing them all messed up really messes with her, and obviously you're going to see chinks in her armor come through like this, and I think that's great.
But she's also very, very old.
Yeah, she is very old. She's a very old lady.
Isn't she like in her late 70s?
60s? 70s?
No, she's in her 60s.
Yeah.
She's not in her 70s, I don't think.
Is she not in her 70s? You talk and I'll Google Halsey.
Halsey's interesting because she does have this connection, but she also like gets shit done. She has this issue with like, she knows what needs to be done, and she knows the sacrifices that need to be made, but she has a hard time coping with the sacrifices when they actually happen. And so Halsey sends Blue Team down to the planet. She knows that that something could happen, but then when she physically sees how fucked up Blue Team is, she feels really bad about it because she sent them down there.
She's 67.
Oh shit, she's old.
That's not that old. And again, this is like future humans. They probably have a way different life. Perengowski is, infinite.
Yeah, she's like 150 or some shit.
I think Halsey, with, the access that she has to various technologies, she's fine. Like, she's got an Uber arm. She's got a Spartan arm now, probably.
She does. She has, like, they gave her a mechanized arm.
She just looks a lot frailer.
She just sounds like they're making her sound elder a bit more, which makes sense because she's been through a lot. I like how she's portrayed in this book, that she's not even in it a lot. I like that. That was good too. She's maybe 1 or 2 chapters from her point of view.
It's just 1, yeah. I was hoping there was more because I was like super surprised and very pleased when I got to that chapter, but
yeah, but then that was a very interesting take, and it was great. That gives you so much information, but obviously not a lot of like the current state of the UNSC, and obviously that like this is a year after like Halo 5, which is huge in terms of like Cortana's crackdown, and how like, okay, Infinity is still operating by itself. It's doing the run to like I like how they've explained the scale, and that like, okay, Cortana will be alerted in these circumstances, and that they know to operate beneath them. I thought that was cool, and that even the Banished were doing that as well. Thought that was awesome. They send all these ships out to jam the whole planet and then destroy all these satellites so that they don't send any like link to Waypoint. Thought that was cool.
Like we said before, it's very Battlestar Galactica. It's just the last ship on the run, because there's a line Chief says at some point where he's like, the task force, if whatever. And then in his head, Chief goes, I don't know if you can call the Infinity a task force anymore, because it's just one ship and a couple of escorts. He's like really selling the idea that there ain't much left.
Yeah, I like that. But that like bridge scene was great because obviously it reintroduced Palmer, brought in Lasky. You have a few other characters in and around the bridge, and Infinity is obviously still running really well, which is a good sign. But I love the idea of the stories being told in the last year, let's say, of the Battlestar Galactica style story that we know is in there, and that happened as they jump from planets to planets. And obviously they must be like re-equipping somewhere. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be an element of them moving around the Guardians. Do you know what I mean? Getting in between the gaps and stuff like that. I think that sounds really cool.
Fine rightly, they've been buying their supplies from Venezia because that's the only planet that sells weapons in the Halo universe.
Yeah.
That's true. Everything comes from Venezia.
We were talking about this before the show. We have, I think, mixed opinions on Underground Living, once again featuring in the Troy book. I like the idea that you think there's only a couple of colonists living on a farm chiseling away at the glass, and then you find out it's actually a few thousand colonists living under the glass. There's something cool about that.
I also love that their mission isn't like they're not harvesting the glass to use as a resource. They are in fact trying to repopulate the planet and terraform it. I thought that was cool. That's what they were doing. They were trying to create farmland, and it wasn't the same as Meridian, because that was where my touchstone went from my brain of visualizing anything being described on the planet is like, what does Meridian look like? And what did it look like to like fight on Meridian and stuff like that.
I like that is it Baldassar, is it? You call her the woman that's in charge. I like how her family are like Reach old money miners, so they've decided that the way to save Reach is they're going like, Reach is still full of resources. We can mine the titanium and sell it to rebuild the colony. That's her family goal.
They're big agriculture and mining companies, and I love that. She was an interesting character too. I liked how the militia was portrayed as like crazy diehard psychos.
But Chief is like totally vibing with them. He's like, I really want to help them. Can we find a way to help them?
And they were like, imagine what they were like if they were trained. I do think it was pretty cool. There were some annoying characters for sure. Oh my god, I could feel Chief's pain and anguish of dealing with these people.
Yeah.
But they are they're civilians. I think Chief mentions it a couple of times. He was never really trained for civilians. He's barely trained to make small talk with people, never mind anything else. And this is all just stuff he's having to figure out. But I love the couple of times when I could totally get a job in the diplomatic corps. Like, I could sort this shit out.
I did think that was pretty funny.
Chief the Peacemaker.
Comments on things Fred was saying and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a position for us in the diplomatic corps.
There was also like this moment where Chief was dealing with the militia, and I think she was transporting him or something like that, and she had this necklace that had some pictures on it, and Chief's like really stressed about asking her about it. He's like, oh Jesus, I'm not good at personal questions, but then he ends up doing it, and I'm like, I'm so proud of you.
It's the doctor. I love her interaction with him because she's like, why did you want me here if you're not going to take any of my advice? And he's like, I was ordered to report to you for a checkup. He's not having any of it. She's like, you need to stay off that leg for a week. And he's like, not happening. You need to take it easy. Not happening. And then I love that he can like copy and paste his medical data and Bluetooth it to your handset. You want some medical readings? Here you go.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all you're getting because you can't scan through the suit and the suit's not coming off. So it was like, okay, do what you can.
Interesting point to the suit not coming off. Do we want to touch on one development, or do we want to leave a list of things we think will be in Infinite at the end?
Yeah, we have a list. Another moment I really liked with Fred. Fred's very good throughout this whole book because Fred's he has a really good sense of humor compared to the other ones. The other members of Blue Team. He has the most normal sense of humor, I guess.
He's like a people person.
He's like a Spartan version of a people person.
He's got a girlfriend.
He does have a girlfriend, yeah.
How lucky. At one point, Fred has to he has a concussion. He has to sit around with his helmet off. And they're obviously flashing the different colors and stuff in the helmet. And everyone's like, did your helmet just flash some colors at you? Is it trying to talk to you? And Fred's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, Fred with concussion was pretty funny.
Oh my god, he's like, do I have a hangover? Am I drunk?
I did think it was great where he was trying to tell the militia, like, at the very start when they're blowing the tunnel, like, you have this many explosives in this tunnel. Oh my God, you don't understand. He starts quoting all these things, and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's fine, I'll blow it up. We blow shit up all the time. And then they fucking, like, cripple themselves with the underground shockwave that they generate. That's one thing I have to say that I loved about this, and the comment is they're on Reach, and they've been pillaging Reaches. Reach is just left. There's so much equipment and weapons on Reach. I love that this book just has anything that they want, they have. It leads to a very different story where it's always scrounging. Do you know what I mean? You always feel like your team, when we're reading these books and playing, you're constantly scrounging. I love how they have everything. They have all the crazy explosives. They have fucking havocs that they're trying to convince them not to use. I thought that was wonderful. And I love that they just had the shit they needed. And they didn't have to they could easily explain it. I thought it was cool.
It's not like having to deal with the kids on the planet and the spider walkers and the couple of bits of equipment left.
The crazy microwave gun or whatever.
Well, they are kind of the underdog, but they're the very well equipped underdog. All they were short of was aircraft.
Spider children. Do we have anything else we want to talk about when it comes to the human characters, blue team, stuff like that? I have one actually. Kelly listens to Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of loved that. It was really subtle, but it was like, oh my God. It was really funny.
Obviously, it's all John's point of view, and you have Fred being Fred, just being generally excellent and having a good personality. They did something new with Kelly, introducing her. She likes music and obviously high tempo stuff to kind of relax herself and get her into her pre-battle kind of mantra. I thought it was cool because Kelly has a bit of dialogue, not really fleshed out, and Linda is the exact same Linda always is.
Linda's very, methodical and quiet. They did mention Norn Fang a couple of times, which I really appreciated.
Norn Fang got thrown a lot.
But Linda's always very calm and quiet. She's also a badass, though. Master Chief just, puts her in different, sniper posts throughout the book, and she just fucking shreds through people.
The only thing I find sort of weird about it is Queen doesn't seem like the sort of music to pump me up before battle. I would have had her down as a Slipknot fan.
I don't know. But another one bites the dust. I don't know. It's kind of fun. She listens to that, and then she listens to Killer Queen, which is talking about dynamite and laser beams and shit like that. I'm sure Kelly would love that shit. She is the Killer Queen. Do we want to go into some of the what's going on with the Banished and Keepers and the dynamic?
Yeah, we should talk about Castor signed up to the Banished.
Which is crazy. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It was very believable because Castor and Atriox were buddy-buddy when they were younger.
Did we know that? Or was that
I don't think we knew that.
I thought they mentioned it before.
Yeah, I remember Troy had introduced Banished as it was literally a send, or he was mentioned, there may have mentioned Banished in previous books, just to bring them into the universe.
I thought there was something along the lines of, we could do this with the Banished, and Castor's no, absolutely not. They're not faithful. And I thought they hinted at some sort of a relationship with Atriox. Vaguely.
Yeah.
But he definitely hints at the Banished aren't in it for the religion. He I think Castor outright says that at one point.
The interesting thing is Castor's still very religious and all about that, but at some point he's just I need to join the Banished because they're of course going to look for different weapons and stuff like that, and we can both benefit each other.
Did he say it all? Did the Oracle send him to the Banished? I can't remember.
They joined forces pretty much after Cortana showed up, and they're oh fuck, we have to
unify
to kind of get anything done or whatever, I think, to help each other. I think that's kind of what happened.
We obviously get a lot of Castor. We get a lot of Escharum, which is really great because he was a very misnomer in all of the Halo Infinite trailers. We get a little bit of Atriox, and then we get a bunch of other people Gadogai, which is the Sangheili Blade Master. He's kind of Esharum's eyes, I guess, because Castor's kind of sent to look for the portal under the mountain, which will connect him with Atriox using a slipspace crystal, and so they pretty much posted him on Reach, and they're I don't know where the fuck it is. It's under a mountain or some shit. You should probably fucking find it. And Castor's okay.
Also, can we mention that it's not just any slipspace crystal, it's the slipspace crystal from First Strike.
I loved how they finally brought that back, because it was obviously that stuff from so I thought it was great.
I'm kind of curious as to why the Dreadnought's not operational though, because he says he sent a message back telling Escharum to activate the portal. He found Truth's ship, he found the shards. He didn't take the Dreadnought back to the galaxy, which makes me wonder, was it not operational?
Or maybe he just couldn't figure it out or something like that. Or, I mean, maybe Atriox just doesn't care enough. The Dreadnought's super powerful, but maybe it's just too much of a hassle to kind of figure out the Forerunner controls on it.
He has what he needs. Maybe he doesn't need a
It is
Dreadnought.
confirmed that the Dreadnought is still there. And it's not even by High Charity, is it? It's just somewhere on the Ark.
It docked somewhere because it's not in the battle with the brutes when you first go to the Ark with Chief.
Yeah, it's just, you never really hear of it again, so you imagine it was Drute landed it normally, and then it's never heard of again.
But you think, like, if he had the Dreadnought, if he could use it, surely he would have just wiped out the Spirit of Fire, and that would have been the end of it.
There's obviously something keeping it from the fight.
And I'm sure it could be Medicant bias, who knows?
Yes, a certain Forerunner AI, someday.
Do love the Keepers and the Banished, and how the Banished seem to be, when Atriox is not around, like he is their all guiding force, and they did a great job of building up Iskarum, of being Atriox mini, of being like, he's just as badass. Atriox seems to love him, and that like everybody pretty much respects and fears him. This is obviously a great setup for what's going to be Halo Infinite. So I like these characters being introduced, these leaders of these clans. I like the idea of us maybe seeing these clans in Infinite, and I think that's kind of cool. And the 3-party setup of the 3 of them meeting, that whole meeting scene was really cool. How they meet on this glass that's like covered over like this boiling sulfur, and it's a thin layer of glass that's still there. So like it's pretty much hinted at if we start fighting with our gravity hammers, we'll kill each other. I think that whole scene and setup is really cool. Having Isolang Godadai there, and how smarmy he is, how he doesn't wear armor, he just has his sword on his hip. It's just like a badass. Like, it's just like, yeah, no bother.
I wanted to see how he was going to kill some brutes bare-handed. I was waiting so patiently.
He's just being talked about as being this killer.
You know that joke in The Simpsons when like the Mafia and the Yakuza and all are fighting outside Homer's house, and he's like, but Marge, the little guy hasn't done anything yet, and she takes him back into the house, and then he hears a load of bodies fall over, and he's like, "Aw." I just imagine that's what this would be like.
Off scene is better than in. Yeah, I'm just what he can do. He sounds badass. I'm glad that that ending was pretty cool too. It did seem a little bit like, oh wait, you're just going to join them just like that.
Him and Castor did have like a bromance going along the whole time. You can hear it's like, if you told me that the two of them were wildly in love and it was Brokeback Mountain, I would totally believe it.
They had a great relationship, I thought. I was really happy that he's gone to the Ark now.
Yeah, the Sangheili actually defected from the Banished and went off with the Castor. Because I didn't think this was going to happen, but I guess it did. I was very shocked. They actually got the portal to open, which I'm like, oh fuck, what?
Yeah, and it's because he had some humans with him.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Let's get into that after the portal.
Atriox from I was like, what the fuck?
That is so bad. That is worst case scenario for the Halo universe at this point. Like, Atriox coming back from the Ark is the worst. It's good for us because it's like super epic and cool, but holy fuck, this is gonna be bad because all of our Halo Infinite theories up until now assumed that Atriox was going to be trapped on the Ark.
I think it's very interesting that they've pretty much pegged that the Ark failed for him. Whatever he was there to do didn't happen. So obviously the loss of enduring conviction and the kind of, let's say, the awakening of the nightmare stuff pretty much killed whatever Atriox was actually trying to do over there. He left all his forces there to hold the Ark while he just bails the fuck out and comes back to like the greater Halo universe. I think that's very interesting, and obviously kind of sets the stage for like what he's going to do next and what his plan. He has a greater purpose, or he has plans that he's now back to enact. I think that's fascinating.
It angers me twice now that Atriox has gone off to do things and we don't know what the fuck he's doing anywhere. He went to the Ark and we don't know his reasons, and then he comes back from the Ark and he's like, right, motherfuckers, we are away on a new mission. You're like, would you tell us something? Anything?
That scene where Atriox was like, we have a new thing to do, and I'm like, oh, and Castor's like, I'm not gonna ask. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I was like, he wouldn't have told Castor anyway. Maybe we will know because the Skyrim should probably know this information. So like, maybe as we get to see what Skyrim knows in Infinite, we'll get maybe a hint of what Atriox is doing. And also, is Atriox in Infinite? We can talk about this later. But let's just say, I did say that scene where Atriox comes back and then Godai starts introducing the various captains. I'm like, okay, these are the boss battles in Halo Infinite. Straight away, I was
it was just like, Jata Radum, and he's this, short-tempered.
He has a backstory.
Evil,
this guy has a backstory. This guy's the Scourge Maker. I'm like, okay.
It almost sounded very nearly like a nemesis system. You have this whole load of people, but I was wondering, do you think between the clans fighting on Reach, do you think that'll be like the setup for Infinite? Do you think you'll have different banished territories held by different factions, and you'll have to like take out their command structure?
Probably.
100%, that's what I'm thinking. And I think there's probably, obviously they've taken the keepers out of it. So they were obviously very antagonistic with the other kind of groups where like obviously they didn't even view the keepers as being proper banished. So they're now taken out of the picture. So all we're just going to have is banished clans, which I think is fine. But I think it's also super interesting to see how the humans were actually playing up into like those kind of tactics of setting the clans against each other in this. But I think that's absolutely a precursor to what what Infinite's going to be. Like I said, Infinite's going to be you building a resistance, and I love the idea of you playing the clans maybe against each other. That's super cool. I'm 100% down with that kind of gameplay. And obviously introducing the clans as having clan names and like Corpse Moon, that's awesome. Ravaged Tusks, I'm down with that. I'm down with some cool badass named clans that we're going to fight, and having these boss-like characters being under a Skyrim, definitely. Fuck yeah.
Okay, so we got the banished kind of out of the way. Do we want to talk about some of the like Battle of Reach and the dynamic there?
The big fight in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool. I thought it was like the mission, obviously, what an escalation of we're here to insert super secret and get this thing out of a lab to, yeah, we're now fighting the banished off Reach. We're liberating Reach. I'm like, fuck, that's dope. But again, the way they had set it up of like the certain scale of battle is going to trigger Cortana. Like there's like detonating a nuke. There's no way we could hide that. Cortana's going to see it. So like, I thought that was cool, but I think in my mind, it was always going to end with a Guardian or Cortana showing up and then bailing. I didn't think they were going to take Reach back and then have, yeah, we now own Reach.
It was kind of nice that Cortana isn't directly impacting the story, but she's kind of indirectly this, overarching like threat that, we can't do these things because Cortana might see. So I'm kind of glad she hasn't, like, we don't see a Guardian, we don't see Cortana, she doesn't talk or anything like that. She's just an ever-looming, like, invisible threat, and I love it.
Yeah, I love how the Banished are calling her the Apparition. I thought that's really cool. Thought that was dope.
I also, like, Kelly won't even say her name anymore. It's like Voldemort. She who must not be named. Like, Kelly doesn't want him to say Cortana over their team comm or anything like that.
So the battle itself, I thought was excellent. That's for me where the book kind of ramped up. It was very slow in introduction. I'd have to, with like the hot beginning of the crash to them walking and digging and moving underground and on the glass planet.
And they have these slow vehicles. They have these slow excavation equipment, and like they're in tunnels for half of the book.
Side note, Fred using the driller as like an anti-air thing sounded dope. That was a cool scene. I thought that was pretty cool. And then seeing like the back and forward between when it cuts to Castor, which is like a reveal in like the chapter 3 of like what they're seeing to what the Spartans are seeing, and both sides are completely wrong over like based on the information they have. I thought it was fascinating to see like their conclusions and how they reacted to like they think they're here for this and this side think they're here for that, but they don't actually know. I thought it was cool. The battle of Reach in terms of they're taking this armory, this town. I'm forgetting what it was called.
Yeah, they banished armory. It's fine.
It everything about it was super cool. Digging underneath the walls, coming up the stealth infiltration with the 4 Spartans just taking over the base. Thought that was fucking cool. Like the explosives, planting explosives everywhere, blowing. I thought it was all wonderful, all well done. I loved every team member had like a job to do, and you know you could see Blue Team working together as Blue Team, and it felt great. And then like bringing in the militia, bringing in kind of like the taking and then the defending of it was so awesome. And then the stuff that was happening with Infinity when they realized that their ship's still in space and stuff that they're trying to like block and defend, and they had a brief kind of space battle. That sounded incredible. How like they trapped the Corvette and then lined it up for Infinity to mack it into oblivion. Like that whole sequence sounded awesome of how they adjusted their tactics, how their spaceships have shields now.
And then like a million Marauders and Wraiths show up, and it just like, it's just insane. And then all these broadswords come in, or long swords come in, and they're just fucking blowing shit up.
Like I said earlier, having John take over the battle and pretty much organize it, was awesome. That wasn't something I expected to see John do, but obviously in his element, this is what he's doing. It's been done for years, but we've never really seen it. But having take over the militia, install people in better positions, and just have like, yeah, you do this plan is this, and just seeing it happen was incredible. And I thought it was really, really, really cool. Everything, just how it scaled up, and then having like those gun emplacements sounded awesome. The anti-air stuff, the size, I'm like, fuck, they sounded awesome. And having
They used like all their resources on this, which was insane.
Yeah, that's what I thought was great of like how they had so much. They're so well equipped because they're on Reach, because they're like survivors and people who used to work in like this R&D in this lab. So yeah, that's where we got our nukes from.
And it makes sense because Reach was a military compound. So like all of the survivors, like the Banished don't care about human technology, but the humans were at a great advantage, even though they didn't see it at first, because they had all of this UNSC equipment that they salvaged from all over the planet. They had crazy amounts of resources, so much so that they're like, oh yeah, we have like 5 Havocs, and Chief is like, what the fuck, are you joking?
I've only managed to hack into 1. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, Jesus, what the fuck are these people doing? It was really cool. I thought the whole battle, how it went, how it was described, awesome. And the whole scene with the Warthog, like I said, that they're planning on taking a Phantom, and then it gets wiped out by their own force. UNSC is on the way in. They're doing like a hot drop with the 100 Spartans dropping in.
Oh my god, that was amazing. That was so epic.
When they specifically call out those 2 Spartan teams by name, do we assume they're significant for down the line?
I almost felt like I was supposed to already know them. Tartarus and Intrepid, or what are they called? Something like that? I can't remember what they were called, but yeah, Tartarus, Thoth and thingy. But like, obviously they're like the ultimate team, almost like, I don't know. I kind of felt like that should have been Crimson or something. Do you know what I mean? I felt like it should have been teams that we already knew.
Is Crimson still a thing? Didn't one of them die in a comic?
Yeah, but like Crimson was the team you played as. Do you know what I mean? You were Crimson team as.
Oh, that's right. You were Crimson, not Majestic.
Majestic was the other team, yeah. But again, I would have expected the 2 teams to be Majestic and Crimson, because they say that when John recognizes these team members, and he's like, if they're here, they're the Uber team of Palmer's Spartan 4s. So that means they're here for the Havocs and stuff.
I like that Chief kind of stands up for the Spartan 4s, because he's like, Halsey has a bit of a thing about them because they're not like our level of physical perfection, but he's like, they're damn good soldiers and they're fully capable, and I've trained among them and I've fought alongside them, and they're just good. He's totally just like, I'm good with this. These guys are good. A lot of them deserve to be here. He doesn't have his nose stuck up about it or anything.
No, and I don't think Chief would. In a way, he's almost like ready to pass the torch on to them too. Like he kind of marks them in his head as worthy. And this happens throughout the entire book. Chief keeps talking about how he's old and how much longer he can, keep this up, and how he's going to die. And I'm like, can we stop? I can't handle this. I don't want this.
Fireteam Taurus and Fireteam Intrepid. They're 2 of the best crews Infinity had when it came to Spartan 4s, trained explicitly for high-risk operations well behind enemy lines. that kind of sounds like you think it would have been Majestic and Crimson, but obviously they're retired now, so we have better teams who are not them.
Fire Team Intrepid sounds familiar.
It's like Intrepid Eye. You think maybe they were involved in previous books? I'll take a look there now. Maybe we can see where these people are.
Do we think Intrepid Eye? Because now this is going back to one of the other Troy Denning novels, isn't that in Last Light they discover this super powerful AI named Intrepid Eye, and then she kind of just messes with shit, and we don't know where she is. She escaped Argent Moon, which is the Oni facility. So she's a very powerful Forerunner AI. She kind of works on her own systems, like She lost her facility. She sees what humans are doing with Forerunner technology. She's not super happy about it because we destroy everything. And she just she's like a chaotic neutral character where she just does whatever she thinks is right in the moment.
Guys, I figured it out. Fire Team Taurus is a Mega Bloks team.
Oh shit, really? Alright, we gotta get the Mega Bloks guys on this.
There you go, Mega Bloks. That's why it's mentioned.
Oh, so you can buy these and play with them. Devious product placement in our novel.
How could Troy Denning do this?
Troy, tut. Do you remember Apollo? Do you remember when we were Fire Team Apollo?
No, I don't. I don't remember that at all.
Do you remember Krista? We're Fire Team Apollo. Do you know that?
No, I don't remember.
We're probably the last two members of Fire Team Apollo.
I know, everyone else is just abandoned. That was the Loot Crate stuff. Alright, anyway. Intrepid Eye kind of does whatever she wants. With Cortana kind of taking over all the Forerunner stuff, I would imagine Intrepid Eye isn't probably super happy about that because she's a human AI, and Intrepid Eye doesn't necessarily like humans. But do you think Intrepid Eye could be working with the UNSC at this point?
She might be, but Intrepid Eye, well, she does like humans because she thinks humans are ready. Or
humans are the mantle, so she's 100% trying to prep. But I think that puts her in direct contention with Cortana then. Because Cortana is the one taking the mantle, and Intrepid's like, no, humanity are the ones supposed to have it. So that might give us our kind of force against her.
I mean, would you be interested to see Chief working with Intrepid Eye instead of Cortana? We know that's not true and that's not going to happen, but I think that would be interesting.
Given how Fred's previous encounter with Intrepid Eye was, where she like locked down his armor and tried to kill him, I think it'd be really interesting to see them working together. That'd be cool.
But then, because of that, Fred gets to, be a sled for Veda, and, he really enjoyed that. So maybe Intrepid Eye was just kind of like doing him a solid at that point.
Found it interesting that Castor specifically said that the Oracle sent the ferrets to him.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if Veda is probably working with Intrepid Eye and probably via Castor, probably got in. That's how they got into the Keepers, was like the Oracle going, here are my 4 super fans. Please let them join the Keepers.
Yeah, I found it interesting because Fred specifically says that they went missing 2 years ago. So that would be before this, because this is a year after the shit hit the fan, which means they went missing.
2557.
They went missing before Cortana kicked off. So could they have been on a mission and then been there when the shit hit the fan and then teamed up with Dark Moon and Intrepid?
I think definitely that's all possible, and that definitely they were probably given a mission to do, because we haven't even talked about Veronica Dara's back.
That's at the very, very, very end. That's when that's the epilogue.
And so she seems to be like the Oni rep on Infinity. So obviously whatever's left of Oni, because Oni's probably obviously scattered, and she kind of says that even when Oni wasn't like all over the place, I didn't know everything or every battle. But I got the impression that she was waiting for something, and that she was expecting for something from Veda. So obviously I think I got the impression that she knew Veda was out there doing something. Whatever that was, infiltrating the Keepers or keeping an eye on the Banished.
Now, just really quick, just to, walk it back a second. Throughout the book, we see these 4 humans, and Castor mentions them multiple times, and they're kind of doing his bidding, and he puts a lot of trust in them and stuff like that. And then at the very end of the book, Fred comes face to face with Veda, and Veda's like, get the fuck out of here. Here's a message, boo, I love you, mwah. And then they run away. And then, of course, they go off to the Ark. So, Ferret Team is present in this. It's not revealed until the very end, but you get a lot of subtle hints throughout the book where you're like,
They give you that giant hint the first time he mentions it, where like, I've heard them refer to the female as mom, and they don't appear to be young enough to be her kids. And I was like, oh, it's the ferrets.
When they described her, and that didn't really mean anything to me, and then it was the referring to her as mom. I was like, why would they do that? Boom, ferret team.
For a minute, I was convinced they genuinely were only going to tease them and then never mention them again, because as you keep going through the book, you're like, they never went back to the ferrets. Why wouldn't they go back to the ferrets? And you're like, is that going to be the only cock tease, that the ferrets are in the background and then we're not going to hear from them this entire book? I was convinced. Talk
about like possible spin-offs. Like, that's a cool story in itself, of the ferret team infiltrating the keepers, and then talking about afterwards, meaning what happens now. Aatrox is off the arc, so whatever Halo Wars 3 is like not versus Aatrox, it's versus the rest of his forces and the Keeper force.
Who are going, and the Banished aren't going to activate the rings, but the Keepers are definitely going to try to activate the rings.
So then you now have 3 factions, and maybe, not including the Flood, of like, that's awesome.
It's so interesting. Troy Denning did a really good job at tying in all of his previous work into this, because at one point, Master Chief kind of looks back at when he's given the title of Master Chief, which is in the first Master Chief novel, Silent Storm.
It is.
If you've read all the Troy novels, this novel is a much better payoff than if you haven't, though it is 4 novels. It's a lot. Also, like, Fall of Reach and First Strike are kind of must-reads for this novel as well. So be sure to read 6 books before you read this 1 book.
No, you don't have to do that crazy.
No, you don't.
You get something out of it. Seeing like these threads being pulled, these old threads that have just been left hanging get pulled back into like recent Halo canon. That's really interesting.
Can we talk about, since Halo 3, we hadn't had any mention of the Ark for a really long time until up to Halo Wars 2, and now the Ark is super present, and it's amazing, and I love it, because the Ark is like one of the coolest set pieces in the Halo universe.
But now it's even more cooler because the Ferret team are there. And you have the Ferret, you've got Keepers, you've got Banished, you've got Flood, you've got UNSC, Spirit Fire, you got like, that's so cool. Thinking of all those things. Like, that's a whole series in itself.
Alright, so do we want to talk about, right after the Battle of Reach, another huge battle happens, which is the fight to Sword Base and the fight, not Sword Base, Castle Base, and the fight around Castle Base. Does anyone want to take this one?
I talked a lot. Aaron, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I can talk for a bit, yeah.
We want to hear your voice.
Let's see, we start off with, we have the very cool trench run through the mountains, which ends at a very sad death.
And a bong bong bong, a ding dong.
What a cool trench run, though. That was cool.
Fucking sweet.
Yeah, the idea that it's just 3 Spartans hanging out of the back of a pelican, and because of the way the canyon is, they can't be attacked from above, so they're literally just like shooting out the back.
Oh, don't forget about Mackay.
Yeah.
Well, she's strapped in her seat.
Shooting machine guns and stuff.
But still, like, you never see, like, apart from, I think you see Johnson in Halo 3, he uses like the rear gunner turret at one point in the back of a pelican, but not much else. And you're like, that seems a little impractical. And then you find out, oh, they actually have a sling and it hangs from the roof now. That's how we take out the enemies behind us. They do their trench run. Chapov dies, but he gets them there in the end because he's an awesome pilot. And he actually takes out an anti-air wraith by landing on it, which is like the coolest last move. And then they make their way up through the mountains. They find the bell. That was a good Easter egg where they go through obstacle course. There's a name for it. What do they call it? The playground?
Yes, the playground.
And then it's the bell that Chief rings. There's an awful lot of coming full circle in this book. Here you are, and this is the bell that you rang that very first day when you fucked up and like left the rest of the team behind. And I like the Chief puts the silencer on his gun and shoots it 3 times.
Yeah, when Chapov dies.
Yeah, just like on the way past, and that's it done. And then they make their way up the mountain and they go to, what do they call it, Medikite Mountain, or what's left of it?
The Shaft.
Yeah, First Strike or Fall of Reach, do they detonate the mountain? Fall of Reach?
Yeah, First Strike is like the Battle of Reach. Fall of Reach is Chief like leaving Reach to go to Halo 1.
That's right. So Halsey was last man standing. She set the fail-safes and they basically detonate and drop the entire mountain on the facility, but then the Covenant dig their way down into it, so they cleared the mountain. And then they bored this shaft right down to the Forerunner bit below the planet. So there's this massive wide, like, 2-kilometer shaft down into Reach.
Yeah.
And then the Banished come along, and of course it's full of muck and dirt and shit and water and everything else from lying here for 7 years. So the Banished use what do they call them? Pirate lifts. They're basically gravity lifts. I love the idea that they're like loot lifts. They describe how the Banished raid a planet, so because it takes too long to move loot and ships and all the rest, they drop a pirate lift and they launch the loot up into the ship that hovers over the city. The Banished use it. They drop one lift down the shaft and then they pump all the sludge and crap out of it. And then they like direct it with a second lift and spray it off into like a little reservoir that they've made. The guys decide, oh, well, this is clearly the handiest way to go, so they've got to get into it. Now, I may not remember all of the battle. They get the broadswords to, like, make a run across the battlefield first and to loosen up the enemies. And then the broadswords tell Chief that, oh, we've got reinforcements coming. And then the longswords come in and they chase off Iscarim's, like, little cruiser.
And then there's a bunch of, like, jump pack brutes that funnel out of there.
Oh, the Grey Squad? That was a cool scene.
They seem to be like Iscarim's personal guard or something because they're all super disciplined. Chief comments about how they're all lined up around the ship and none of them move, and then he notices they're all like running into the hangar bay and you think they're retreating, and then he talks about as the ship takes off, they're actually all jumping back out and he's like, oh no, they're jetpack brutes.
Jetpack brutes with infusion gel launchers from Halo Wars 2 are Weekly Nightmare stuff. They're finding the red gel that burns through stuff. Awesome. Love seeing that again. Hope that's in Halo Infinite. It's dope.
They take out broadswords with it.
Yeah, they do. And fuck up Chief with it too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they get him in the lift, don't they?
Yes, I think so.
One of the brutes shoots up the lift and catches him, so the longswords chase off the ship. They give them air cover. The team then have to go, I think about 13 or 14 jetpack brutes make it down the shaft first. And then Blue Team are like, right, we have to go down after them. So they're doing like a fast rappel. They clip the rope to the back of their armor and then they leap face first down into the mine shaft. And they're like leaping 10 feet at a time and making their way down there. And this is the point when Blue Team, they realize they're like, The Banished board a lot further down, because up until now they think the Banished have been following them to get to Halsey's lab, and then this is the moment where it clicks and they go, no, the Banished wanted the Forerunner facility all along. They make their way down and they kick all sorts of ass and have a gravity lift fight, and Chief uses his grapple shot to take out, he uses his grapple shot and one of the new weapons, the Pelham? How do we pronounce
Allium?
that?
Pilum. I don't know.
It sounds like a sort of rocket launcher. I was saying to the guys before the show, I googled it, and a Pilum is a type of javelin. And at one point, Chief shoots a brute that's standing in like the entrance to Castle Base, which is halfway, or like 2/3 of the way down the shaft. And he talks about how he shoots him in the eye, and then it detonates and like launches Chief on down the shaft. So it sounds like some sort of like pointy missile launcher and not quite a rocket launcher. But I had awful trouble like visualizing what this weapon was. But also Chief uses his now inbuilt active camo.
Yes, they all have that now, but it's not great.
Well, it sounds like it depends on who you're hiding from. If you're hiding from, it does like the regular active camo, so if you sprint or run, it's not so good. If you're standing still or moving slow, it's fine. But it heats you up a little bit and causes a few things that you show up in sensors. So it sounds like good for hiding from ground troops, bad for hiding from aircraft or maybe sentinels. It sounds like it has built-in limitations so that you're not too OP. But it maybe gives us a hint at stuff you might get in Infinite, like built-in abilities that could be changeable or modifiable.
I'd love active camo. That would be great.
I'd love to see what else there could be. Armor lock, overshield, maybe other things. Could you swap this out? Because we were, during the battle scene at the city earlier, they mentioned like a portable Spartan bay.
What it's called is a portable Spartan support module.
Which sounds very much like a workshop where You take your credits to get upgrades?
Or something, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you'd have credits. It might be some other form of resource.
Yeah, well, like we know there's like 2 or 3 types of currency collectible in Infinite from the like screenshots.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make sense why you would go to this thing and pay for an upgrade with money.
Well, I say credits, but what if it's nanobots? What if you're just harvesting nanobots?
It's probably like energy. What if it's you're harvesting energy or power or something bad, something to make it run, or you need raw materials.
Yeah, I got a sidetrack there, but like they have stuff like this in it. Where'd we leave off? Oh, Chief was going down the shaft to the bottom. Blue team find out that the shaft goes further than their descent ropes do. And then, is it Kelly was at the top?
Linda, I think.
Kelly was at the top.
Oh, Kelly?
Because they had Linda has a sniper, John has the pilum, and Fred has the spanker. Because they're like, we're taking these fuckers down 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah, Kelly makes her way down to give Chief a hand, but Kelly makes it the whole way down because she gets Mackay to tie a couple of ropes together so it goes a bit further. So she like gets the whole way down and gives Chief a hand.
And Chief is like, that's not supposed to be used that way, but okay.
Yeah, we'll not tell him if it works, or her. Chief's also fighting this whole time with like a lump missing out of the back of his leg because he was injured at one point, so like...
At the very beginning.
Yeah, he's pretty fucked up through most of this. He has this hole in his leg and they've kind of patched him up, but he's not 100%. He forgets himself occasionally and like jumps through places and lands on the bad leg. He's like, oh, I'm going to regret that. They clear the bottom of the shaft and then they take the mining equipment down and then they clear their way into Halsey's lab and then they split up. So we've got Fred goes on down into the Forerunner facility and he's following a tunnel that the Banished made because he wants to see what they're doing.
And this is when he meets up with Veda as well.
Yeah, he finds her in the tunnels and she like passes him a note and then fakes it that she like shoot him away, which is kind of cute that she's like, you've got to run, and then she shoots and he's like,
get away,
did she try to miss my head or not? He thinks that the bullet holes are a little too close for comfort. He has to retreat then because he didn't want to go back to the Infinity and tell Durr that they didn't find out what the Banished were looking for down there.
He was afraid he'd get in trouble.
And then meanwhile you've got Chief and Kelly.
Yes, Kelly.
And they have to do like limbo and make their way through the like rubble of Halsey's lab to get to the safe.
Yes.
And then Chief basically holds up an entire mountain.
Yeah, and also they see spooky eyes. Lots of spooks.
The spooky eye that's looking at him isn't, what do we call her?
Kumya.
Yeah, it's Kelmia.
Is it what's left of her?
It's just this program. That's all it is.
She, like, remembers a little bit of what happened to her.
It's a splinter.
She's just there to, like, make sure that Dr. Halsey doesn't, like, get in there. Or no one except Dr. Halsey gets in there.
Is that who the eye on the desk was as well? Because for a minute I was like, is that not Kilmaya too? I was going to be like, is there someone else? Because he waves at her at the end and she, like, leaves.
Yeah, that's all I think it is. I don't think there's any more to it than that.
We weren't hinting at anything else before I overthink that. They go to break into Halsey's lab, and Halsey's given them a special glove to fake her handprint, and then special contact lenses. The only thing Halsey didn't account for was that there would be a subroutine left behind that would go, you're not Halsey, you can't come in.
Well, she didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but she knew there might be something, so she gave them the passphrase.
Whatever it takes, just like the Avengers.
I think she's used it before. I think even in the early novels, you've had her say this before to like delete memories and stuff like that from Spartans or AI. I think this isn't the first time she said this.
This is the like thing she put into all the AIs or something like that.
Yeah, her back door.
They get Halsey's stuff, which, as we speculated, is 3 cryo tubes and a crate. The crate, I think, comes from Sword Base. I think that's where we're getting Sword Base from, is the box is stamped with a seal that belongs to Sword Base, and then there's the 3 cryo tubes, which are the brains, which is what we were speculating on a while back, that we're definitely getting a new Cortana.
If not a triad. An AI triad.
A sexy Cortana threesome.
Yeah. Well, in Dr. Halsey's journal, she talks about how she made the 4 brains. 3 of them she was going to, just keep in stasis until technology improves. Of course, now she definitely needs them because shit's gone wackio. And she has a theory that if you have 3 separate AI matrices, which you would need 3 separate brains to create, if you make them into almost one AI, they would never go rampant because one matrix would always take the mantle while the other 2 rested, or something like that. It has to do with like this triad where 3 AI makes like a perfect AI.
She describes it as something like where they'd all share the decision making among themselves, and like they'd like reach consensus before they do anything. So it sounded like if they share the load, then you can't go insane because it's all spread out. We thought about this for a while, that they had that trailer for Infinite and then they had some Cortana audio that didn't sound like Cortana because it's Cortana saying it's me, but it's not me.
Yeah.
That would make sense if you were going to have... Because we've also mentioned that Kilmaya looks like Cortana, but a bit different.
Yeah, it's like her sister.
Her older sister. That's an interesting way to...
So he described that version as she had her hair braided and tied around her head and a dress. And you could totally see like another AI made from Halsey's brains would totally sound like Cortana, but look a little different.
Cortana's little sister.
Yeah, basically.
Or is it a 3-brained AI that is Kilmaya, Cortana, and something else? And it's like a trifecta of those 3 personality types or something weird like that.
Perhaps.
Kind of like all 3 of them in one.
I think it would be cool to have 3 distinct versions of the one avatar that it could cycle through, depending on what the situation is and what the AI's mood was. Like, that adds a little variety to things. You could get a bit more creative, you know, if you have the sort of slightly more aggressive AI that's, you know, if you're in a fight, she's the one you're going to see. And if you're doing sciencey puzzle stuff, you get a different one and things like that. Like, it leaves it open for interesting ways to represent it because it's still one AI. Also, it's definitely not going to have a name because Chief's not going to be able to bring himself to have a new pet. So it's going to be the weapon, because I think, isn't there something about weapon not present in like those, when people broke down like the screenshots of the armor boot from the first trailer, it was like weapon not found or weapon not active. You could totally see the Chief would just call this the weapon.
I don't know. Or that could just be that he has no weapons on him. I would almost take it that literally, because isn't that the intro to the game? You starting off with no weapons.
Or even the AI, because AIs choose their own name and identity. An AI that knows Chief's history with Cortana might know that Chief won't be attached to another one. Maybe we go for a slightly more impersonal, you can call me the weapon.
Maybe.
Or maybe that's just a code name for what it is, so that they don't reveal what it is.
It opens a lot of stuff up. Now the Chief's getting more personal and having inner monologues, and he's struggling with social issues. What better than to have a new AI that looks like your ex?
I think it's also cool that he is trying to be more social and making more of an effort. I think that's interesting as well.
I think really like the lack of Cortana is pushing him to do stuff like that more.
He's realised he's like a role model and he has to do things for people and put them at ease and just generally be supportive, whereas he never would have thought of that before.
Yeah. I'm glad they brought the brains back in, though. That was a great thread from the Halsey's Journal that is good to see revisited. There's a lot of that in this book, though.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah, because they obviously don't explain exactly what she's going to be doing or anything like that. She just gets the stuff and she's like, thanks, and then the book ends. It's like, fuck!
Yeah, like she doesn't tell anyone what exactly her plan is, and I get the feeling Chief doesn't 100% know what the plan is, because he's just, Halsey has a plan, we're here to do it, and it sounds like Lasky knows what it is, and Lasky doesn't want to know what it is.
Lasky's he just thinks he knows what's in them. I don't think he knows anything about her plan.
That's true. He has a fairly good idea.
I'm imagining it is just to make this trifecta AI. That's the plan, and then that is the thing to fight Cortana, is what I'm guessing it is. Plus whatever's in the third box.
You know what this shit is? Cortana is just medicant bias, and Halsey's just making offensive bias. It feels like history repeating itself.
History repeats all over the place. It happens time and time again. That's probably what's going to happen here, is this AI will beat the living fuck out of Cortana.
Halsey has a moment like, goes like, Halsey took the box from John, traced her fingertip along the Aver saber imprinted on its lid, and looked up at him again. This is not going to be easy, John. I get the image. She looked at the cryo bins inside, then walked to the hangar mouth and started to change, blah, blah, blah. I like the idea. It's like, it is the only option we have. It's whatever it is, I think, is going to be something that John doesn't like and that no one else likes doing either. It's obviously she's ashamed of the contents and what she has to do.
Well, she knows that it's highly illegal for her to be cloning these brains and have possession of them anyway. So what she's doing is going to probably just dig a bigger hole for her. Because people already hate her already, so now she has to reveal... Because, I mean, they're going to ask where this AI came from, of course. Eventually the truth is going to come out, and then, of course, the UNSC has to use this asset that was obtained illegally. Just like they have to use the Spartan 2s, which were obtained illegally.
Yeah, I still think that's what's going to be Chief's personal struggle will be... This is another version of Cortana. That's going to be what he doesn't like. Like, that's going to be what he's going to have to deal with is... this thing, and then Halsey's going to have to deal with, I've done my final barbaric act. I've taken these 3 clone brains of myself and I've built the super AI. Human AIs up until now have been no match for Forerunner AIs, and this will be her, like, this AI is as good as a Forerunner and it will help us all. And then Chief has become the didact.
History repeats itself. I like it, actually, though. I think it's really good.
And then they all settle down on a planet and they launch the Infinity into the sun, and then we find out that it was Earth all along.
Oh no! It's going to be interesting. It feels like this book is giving us a lot of hints at what's going to happen in Halo Infinite, but it's not going to give us any answers of what's going to happen in Halo Infinite, which I appreciate. I know 343 are trying to kind of separate the book stuff from the game stuff so you can still understand the games, because people get salty, like, what do you mean I have to read books to understand this?
Realistically, what they've shown, I think, is something that it's going to be an Infinite, that they introduced a few new weapons, they introduced a few new vehicles, they introduced these new characters, and just like, here they are, but nothing really detailed about them. I think you'll get everything you need from the games, but you're obviously going to be like, oh shit, there's this guy I read in Shadows of Reach. I like that.
The other thing is, they probably didn't intend on us having to now wait a year to get these answers, because this book was going to come out, like, what, 2 months before Infinite?
It was going to come out in September, end of September. And then I guess Infinite would be around November, so we'd have a whole month to read the book before.
Right, so one thing I've been wondering while we've been reading the book is, originally my money was on Chapov kind of being the pilot, but I was thinking, like, he's too young and he doesn't have a family. And then I was going, I wonder is it Van Out? Because he makes it back to the ship. What if he was just the pilot?
Maybe? I mean, I felt like that too. There was a couple spots where I thought Chapov could totally be the pilot, and then maybe Van Hoot. I don't know. I think David mentioned this before we started recording, but it feels like there's not a lot of familiarity in the Halo Infinite trailers between the pilot and Chief when he finds him.
That's the only thing that I like the idea that may be why they haven't revealed his name, because that is who he is. But even like their relationship seemed very different in this book than what we've seen even in the trailers and gameplay of between Chief and the pilot. And I just didn't get the vibe that it was him, because it felt like their meeting for the first time in the Halo Infinite trailer was them meeting for the first time. That's just the only thing that would turn me off him being Van Hout.
What if they were your crew? What if Van Out, and what if you picked up Mackay along the way and they were like your Pelican crew?
I love that. I love the idea that you could have crews like that you have like a support team, maybe someone there using the module to help you update your stuff.
If the Pelican was like your mini base, you know, on the map, like if it's your like small base that you could go back to between missions, it would be cool to have a couple of NPCs there to do stuff with.
Defo.
I'm sure there has to be an NPC or something talking to Chief and guiding him along if he's not going to have an AI throughout this game.
And if there is not an engineer shopkeeper that upgrades your equipment, I'll also be very upset.
I hope he has like a little hat too. If engineers wore hats, would they wear it on like their little tentacle face, or do you think they'd wear it on like the big part of their body?
No, you wear it on your little tentacle head, because you wouldn't wear a hat on your back, would you?
I don't know. Well, I mean, if he's using a human hat, it's not going to fit on his tentacle head, but it probably would fit on his big sack.
What if he made a little tiny hat and then had a big trench coat over his sack?
It's just like dragging on the floor.
You pull up to him and he's like, I've got wares for sale, and opens his coat up and you can see like assault rifle parts. Can I interest you in an underbarrel grenade launcher?
If there is an engineer and it does upgrade your stuff, I want to see the engineer actually do that, because we've heard, books and novels and shit of them like quickly dismantling and re-putting together stuff. It would be cool to see that in person.
All you're going to see is their tentacles are going to go shimmery and stuff's going to reassemble. Like, that's it.
It's going to be magical, though. I want to see it.
What stuff do we think is like an infinite setup? What do we... Like, there's some equipment. They mentioned some
There's
new
a lot
things.
of equipment, yeah. The grappling hook.
Yeah, the grapple hook has been revealed. The stealth, the jet, that's probably going to be a thing. There's definitely... I like the idea of maybe marauders being vehicles. There's got to be marauders present, right? So bringing them from Halo Wars into the game, that's got to be dope. There's mentions of Reavers. I don't know if you see them, but there's obviously a lot of anti-air stuff, even in the Infinite demo we got some anti-air stuff, but obviously there wasn't Reavers there.
Oh, I would be willing to bet the full...
Yeah, Banish Suite. Okay, cool. They have these siege weapons, these kind of that were described as being like weapons that were like used for like anti-vehicles that like the Banished love using on troops. They're like, I can't remember what they're called. They're mentioned in the armory when John kind of first infiltrates. What are they?
Yeah, they sound like a rocket launcher sort of a...
Yeah, he thought they were going to be fusion cannons, but they weren't fusion cannons. They fired something else.
I was going to say we've got the emulsion guns as well.
Yeah, the infusion gels.
Infusion. Emulsion's the stuff from Gears.
That's it, yeah. Infusion gels, pretty much the exact same stuff, just Halo-fied. So I think that's great to see in this book. That's definitely going to be in Infinite. What else have we got?
Well, we have the Pelham. We have the target designator that straps onto the bottom of your assault rifle.
Barrel guns, yeah, laser designating stuff. That would be cool if that was something you could do.
What if you could do multiple attachments to your assault rifle? Because it sounds like...
They did call it the universal attachment slot or whatever under the gun. So that implies, can we finally get our grenade launcher?
Yeah, they've spent so many years talking about grenade launchers, like it seems like a no-brainer. Underbarrel shotgun, that's what we really need, David.
Oh, I do like them. Intriguing. I want to see more of this. Other than that, I think obviously you got all the characters that were introduced.
Do we think Blue Team's going to be in Halo Infinite?
That's such a good question.
Like, if there's a huge assault going out, if the Infinity goes to the ring and drops a bunch of troops, why would they only drop Chief?
They do still send they do still split up Blue Team. Do you know what I mean? Because Linda had her own comic book series that was just Linda being sent on solo missions, and you'd imagine Fred has obviously done it before in the past. So they do split them up and send them on other missions, so they could easily explain it away. But then maybe, I don't know, I think with obviously the co-opness, that's obviously very important to Halo. I could see them canonically having like Halo 5 and have Blue Team with you the whole time, but the demo kind of plays a little bit differently. I don't know, it's weird to see.
I'd like it if they were back because there's more work to be done with those characters. I would hope it would be a situation where maybe you play the intro and everyone plays the intro and you play as Chief, but then when you get into the campaign, it's 4 players, you can drop in and out the same as Halo 5 and they're just there. You may have to do something to meet up with them. Like, it could be something as simple as that.
Go find Fred or something.
Yeah, you'll open up the world and then you'll have them. Worst case, if they did it like Halo 3, where the other players just join your game and they become one of Blue Team, it's all right, but I'd rather have Blue Team there as like voiced characters so we could get some more Blue Team banter. It would be a little sad if we didn't. And also, I kind of wouldn't want to go back to co-op characters being 4 Chief clones.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of spoiled at this point.
Yeah, like if there's something nice to be said about when you play as Osiris or you play as Blue Team, you get that character banter and you are the different characters and you get a slightly different loadout with each of them. I would like it if we got that again.
It's either that or you're just a generic Spartan 4 or something. You're just a generic Spartan. I don't know. It's weird to think about it. I hope they bring Blue Team into it. Other than that, obviously they've named a bunch of banished characters that I think are definitely going to be in this.
Yeah. Like when Atriox comes out of the portal, he obviously brings a bunch of his main commanders with him. Speaking of Atriox, do we think we're actually going to see Atriox in this game?
No, he'll be a way off at whatever his other secret mission is.
The fact that they've built up a Scarum, which could be just to wait for the book, not let the book have that reveal of Atriox being there. He could be there and not there. Do you know what I mean? A Scarum, I got the impression of, because even his speech about when he talks about Didact almost as being not Didact, sorry, but talks about Atriox as being not, you know what I mean? His will be done. It's either the fact that Atriox is left him behind to do whatever, the way Atriox moves on. He left the Ark after he failed there. Maybe he failed at the ring, he left the ring and moved on to something else. I got the impression that like Iscarum, this is just from the very bit to his little speech, is just almost maybe he is living kind of in exile. He's there like in shame because of the failure of that mission. Or maybe it succeeded.
Yeah, I think the Banished succeeded in taking the ring. I think it's the UNSC that failed.
That's true. But didn't he feel kind of dejected and then suddenly energized when he realized Johns was still around and he still had a fight?
I think the issue is Escharum doesn't do well, like, sitting around, and I think his job might have been to just hold the ring after the UNSC failed, and then he just ran out of shit to do, because they hunted down all the humans and shit like that, and of course, like, regular Marines are super boring. So I think he was probably just sitting around there, twiddling his thumbs, getting all upset that he didn't have anything to do, and then Master Chief shows up and he's like, ah shit, now I got a lot of shit to do, this is awesome.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense if they have this, like, shared history from being unreached the year before that, you know, he's going to be excited to have another chance to get this motherfucker.
Yeah, definitely.
Because everyone knows who Chief is.
Everyone. The demon. Bum, bum, bum. What else? Do we think like we're going to see anyone that is currently on the Infinity, or do you think they've pieced out? So we're going to see Lasky, Halsey, Palmer. Or do you think it's just going to be a Chief story of Chief being the last, not the last survivor, but one of the last major survivors of Installation 04's?
I don't think Infinity can be there, given how the game introduces you to it. I think Infinity bailed out, and it could be the fact that a Guardian showed up, fucked everybody up, and then Infinity had to leave again.
Because we know, from the book, we know that if a Guardian is imminent and incoming, the Infinity doesn't care who they're leaving behind. Of course they care about them, but they know that they have to survive to win the war, because they left a bunch of UNSC units on Planet Reach who weren't going to make it up to the Infinity before a Guardian showed up.
Yeah, I still think my money is on... I think the Infinity won't be there, but I don't think a Guardian's fucked anyone up. I think someone set the Halo off, and that's why there's ships lying all over the place and all these dead signals in space. I'd be willing to bet someone was ready to detonate the Halo, and the Infinity had to peace out and go, oh, we can't be here. And like you said, the Infinity will run if they have to, so they left behind the support fleet, and that's where you pick up when this game starts.
That's actually an interesting theory, because Installation 07 is actually part of the Senescent array, which could do localized pulses that didn't have to be these huge, you know...
I kind of get the impression they all can, because in Halo 3, Guilty Spark talks about doing a tactical pulse on the Ark, and that gave me the impression that it sounded like it was going to be localized, like he was just going to... Because it destabilizes the portal and Chief doesn't make it back to Earth, but like Chief didn't immediately vaporize, like he didn't liquidize. So I kind of wonder, can you, even if they didn't, like we don't know where this Halo is in the galaxy. Like they could have just wiped out a whole chunk of the galaxy and been like, yeah, that Halo detonated, and the only people that survived were on the Halo.
We're probably getting way off topic of the book though.
Yeah, probably.
We're getting into Halo Infinite spoiler or predictions now, but I don't know if too much is coming, too much more than that from the book. I think they tell us not to look too much into it, and they're probably right.
It's our job to look too much into it, though.
They would say that.
Okay, what other major tie-ins do we think might happen into Infinite?
I think we might be at our limit of what we can pull out of this. Queen on the soundtrack.
That would be amazing. I'd be so happy.
You find Kelly's iPod and listen to some tunes while you kill the banished.
Yeah.
Oh, those are your collectible items. There's what it's going to be. You're going to find Kelly's MP3 files just scattered around the ring.
Apparently, I don't think so, because Troy has said on Twitter, I'm afraid I did cut the song Killer Queen before sending the draft. I was worried about copyright infringement, but we all know what song she was listening to. So I think they don't have the rights to Queen, so it's probably not going to be in the game.
It's probably really expensive.
Microsoft just spent billions on Bethesda. If anyone can license it.
Wait a second. What if you boot up a computer on one of the terminals or something and it's just the beginning of Skyrim? Oh, you're
No,
here.
we're done.
Oh, you're
That's
awake.
That's it. Everyone, thank you for listening.
Can
This
they
has
put
been your book
Skyrim
club.
and Halo Infinite?
No, we're done, Krista. Out. Come on, like the Infinity, we need to evac.
Okay, one more thing. Let's go over some of the maybe not Halo Infinite related Universal events, but some of the implications to the larger universe. Like, humanity has taken back Reach for now.
That is pretty cool, but obviously they've said that and they did say the pioneers, the people who were there kind of trying to rebuild the planet, that they were perfectly fine if Cortana does show up with a Guardian, because they'll just ally themselves with them and peacefully repopulate the planet, or kind of deal the planet. So that's kind of interesting.
Cortana would obviously probably help them make the planet viable again, which would actually be good, because I think Cortana probably still has a soft spot for Reach anyway, because she still has a soft spot for John.
And definitely the reveal of a portal being there, I think, would warrant the presence of a Guardian at all times. So I imagine it's going to be reachable pretty well Cortanaized, be a created world from now on, I think, because you can't not leave a Guardian there, I don't think. So that's obviously the big implication there. Obviously, UNSC, they leave forces at the end there. They say that we have to bail before this, and they leave a bunch of Pelicans and an Albatross. So there's going to be some of those troops and stuff left behind. They're going to just have to do the best they can. Like I said, they're going to rebuild a home. That's kind of what they say. There's worse jobs out there that these guys could have. So that's kind of interesting. I think obviously the wider impact of the Ark having the Keepers there and the Ferret team on site is really interesting. Fuck yeah, that whole theatre of war becomes more interesting now. And obviously I think opens up potential for maybe stories to be told there in book form and maybe more in game form and stuff. So that's cool.
Finally, I think we have the kind of tidbit of Intrepid Eye is still at large in the universe and very much involved.
And trying its best to shape humanity in one way or another.
Yeah, whether it's directly or indirectly. So I think we'll see more from Intrepid Eye in the future.
Oh, she hates Cortana.
Oh yeah, she's fucking pissed. It's gonna be a lady fight. I'm excited. I hope it's mud. Virtual mud fight.
Virtual mud fight. Interesting.
I think that's about it for just kind of the overall implications that came out of this book.
The big ass book. There's a lot of saying about it.
Do we want to go over our final thoughts on the book and then we'll get out?
Quickly, book starts off a bit slow for me. The use of the word Ledlorelite or whatever.
Lecetalerite.
Lecetalerite.
Every other fucking sentence.
Yeah, that totally just melted my brain. I think it started a bit slow. It had a cool insertion kind of drop. I thought the maneuver was pretty badass. Got a bit slow in the middle for me and really picked up with the battle, the huge battle that took place, and kind of really got really fast at the end. The end of the book is where all the gems are.
Yeah,
where you
really
get the reveal of all the characters. Is just so fascinating having Castor in it, and Castor being really cool. I like him a lot, actually. I find it all very interesting. I think where it leaves, how it picks up these ancient old threads in Halo lore and makes them current, ties them up nicely, I think, and sets off interesting places to tell new stories. Super cool. Really interesting in how it moves the world along and obviously sets up for what is Infinite. Overall, I think a pretty solid, great book. I'm really happy with it. Literally everything I read today was fuck yeah. It was just literally couldn't put it down. Gotta finish this book. It's so good.
Hype.
So that's what I'll say.
David said a lot of what I'm thinking here. It's a good book. I enjoyed it. I didn't find the Reach colonist stuff as much of a slog as I think you guys did, but overall I liked a lot of it. Like you said, find out Castor's there and the ferrets are there, and finding out that they were going to reach for what we thought they were going for, all that stuff sets up so much potential that it just leaves me in overdrive trying to figure out what we're going to get going to the next game. The only thing it makes me want now is another ferret story, because I feel like we need to wrap that arc up. We can't, pardon the pun, we can't leave them on the arc without wrapping their arc. If we had a novel that kind of spanned where they've been the last 2 years up into what they're doing next, I would appreciate that a lot. Or an Intrepid Eye novel, wrap them all into one, because that story's all very much tied together. It just makes me want one of those, so I'm kind of hoping this is not his last novel and we get another one.
I doubt it. It seems like 343 have really come to enjoy working with Troy Denning, and I think we all enjoy it as well. For me, I definitely agree with David that it got a bit slow in the middle, which is fine. I feel like Troy Denning's novels always get slow towards, the middle, 2/3 in-ish. But I feel like Troy Denning always does a good job at rewarding you for getting through some of the slow parts. I think the payoff is always amazing in the Troy Denning novels. I think this novel does a great job at kind of throwing a bunch of threads out there that have been previously abandoned and kind of reintegrating them into the Halo universe. I think it was very rewarding for a longtime fan to read this book, because there is just so much of that. And I think it does a really good job at kind of just, it's not giving you direct tie-ins or getting you set up for Halo Infinite. It's setting up the overarching universe for what Halo Infinite is going to take place in. And I think that's what he does really well in this novel. Is that about it, boys?
I think that's us.
All right, we're gone until the next Halo novel.
Yeah, whenever the fuck that is.
Who knows? Who knows? I don't think it's going to be before Halo Infinite, though. Not at this rate.
They probably didn't plan on another one before the original date, but now anything's possible, because God knows when that's coming out.
Sometime in 2021, I guess.
Ugh.
I know. Now the great wait begins. We've consumed all the Halo media, and now we wait for the new Halo media.
I don't like waiting.
I know, I don't like it either. Let's just storm 343's headquarters and demand answers. Give us the Halo Bible, and then we'll buy them lunch or something. Anyway, thank you for joining us. You can find every episode of all of our shows on our website, halopodcastevolved.com. It also features links to our Discord server, Facebook groups, Patreon page, Xbox Live Club, and our other personal contact information, Twitter, stuff like that. If you want to leave us a voicemail about this episode or a previous episode, we usually play them during our live Podcast Evolved news episodes. Be sure that the voicemails are something you would like other people to hear, and include your name so we can properly thank you. If you'd like to send us a voicemail, give us a call at 205-EVOLVED. That's 205-386-5833. And with that, I have been your host, Krista. Until next time, Evolved.
Evolved!